In this video, we're going to talk about how marriage is a rigged game for man. So let's get into it real quick. What is a game? Well, in this game, the whole thing is to win. Well, it's like, how do you actually win at the game of marriage? Well, basically, is you choose somebody as an improvement. The reason that the woman chooses the man is because it's better to be with the man than without, and vice versa. The man to be with a woman than without. So it's kind of like a pairing of an alignment towards reality to have a better quality of life. And that's the game, is the quality of life. And you marry somebody to improve your chances on winning that uh, game of quality of life. So the first thing is, why is it rigged against men? So if you look at any game, you're going to look at what are basically the rules and what is it that happens most likely. So you always want to play a game that the odds are in your favor. But since marriage is not, we're going to describe why. So we're going to go through 4 steps. The first step is the first thing that starts happening when you get married is people stop working on themselves. This goes both ways. The man and the woman stop working on themselves. So what happens is that attraction decreases. Now, why do you think that people stop working on themselves?
I think one reason is because they get comfortable. They're kind of like, I already got this person and I made all my effort just to get them. Now I got them and now I don't have to try anymore or make that effort.
That's right. They don't make an effort anymore. I got the girl. Why do I have to keep impressing her?
Do I really need to stay attractive? I think that, I don't know if anyone consciously thinks that, but they're kind of like, oh, I can finally relax and be myself. I hear that a lot.
So, like, when people get married, it's kind of like it's an excuse to stop working on themselves. They're like, I don't have to try so hard. I already got them. So the guy stops working on himself. He doesn't do the things he needed to do to get the girl anymore because he got the girl. And the girl is not doing the things that she needs to do to get the guy because she got the guy. So this leads to number 2 is sex declines. Because most of the time, the girl is what she offers as a bargaining tool is her sexuality. And what the man uses is resources. So he promised her a good life, and she promises with sex. So that's what they're kind of like bartering. So she has the sex, and he's interested in, and he's going to offer resources, and she's going to offer sex for resources. So they keep doing it. So after you marry, how come
it declines?
How come it declines? If the man's so interested in it.
So it's like the analogy, there's that phrase that says, why buy the cow when the milk is free? But what happens, I think, is a lot of times men are like, oh, I really like this milk. I'm going to buy that cow.
Right.
But what ends up happening is that, the cow then knows, well, this guy still has to feed me, and I'll give him milk when I feel like it.
Exactly. The reason the cow's giving the milk is because he is feeding her.
Right.
She wants to keep being fed. So what does she do? Gives them milk. So she gives milk in order to be like, well, hopefully this guy keeps feeding me. But once they're married, he has to keep feeding her. Now you're stuck with me. Now I produce milk whenever I feel like it. So that's what happens in the second step is that the sex starts declining because not only they stop working on themselves, they're less attracted to themselves, but the girl doesn't have to give sex if she already gets the resources. So the guy still has a house. He's still living, comfortably and all that stuff. It's not like say, hey, you're going to get kicked out of the house if you don't give me sex. I mean, that's room for divorce, but that's not usually what happens. Right. What happens is that she still is being taken care of and all that stuff because it's a given.
Right. She's being sheltered. She's being fed. She's being.
So why does she have to give sex if she's going to get the whole thing in the first place? Plus, they're not working on themselves either. So they're not dating each other. They're not trying to impress each other. Even worse.
Yeah. There's a lot of times they're like, well, he doesn't take care of himself. Why should I? Or vice versa. Like a lot of times that happens after kids. The woman has a hard time or doesn't even try to get back into shape after. And the guy's kind of like, well, she's put on a few pounds. So have I. Good enough. So they get a little complacent, too comfortable.
So this is kind of like the beginning of a downward spiral. So number 3 is that as the relationship extends in time, the equity grows. And the temptation also grows. So when equity grows and temptation grows is the guy usually gets his shit straight, he starts producing more money. He buys a house. He buys cars. He starts producing things. And the equity starts growing, 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 growing.
Mm-hmm.
So as the years go by, there's a certain limit. After you live with a woman for so long, she is qualified for alimony. So if she divorces your ass, you have to pay her that kind of lifestyle. That's one. And usually as the equity grows, say if you have a business, you have money in the bank, or you have equity in the house or stuff like that, that means the temptation grows to divorce your ass and take half. So if you keep growing, the pot keeps growing. And the pot looks more tempting for her to leave. So as equity grows, so does temptation. And then plus of that, a lot of people already have kids by that time. So there's three things that are going on. The temptation of alimony, the temptation of the half of the pot, and the temptation of the kids. Because the kids, there's a child support. It's another paycheck. So those are the things that grow. That's the number three things. So we have, they stop working on each other, sex declines, and then the equity grows, therefore the temptation grows. So number four is what really is the massive thing that the accumulation of all the other three things is that in there the woman is incentivized to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she disagrees, it's either her way or a paycheck. That's really what it is. Either you do what I say, or I get a paycheck. And what she's doing is using absolute power against the man. Because when he got married, he gave her the possibility of leadership. Now, when the guy gets divorced from a woman and she gets nothing, it's because he has nothing. He has no kids. He hasn't spent enough time with her, and no equity. Mm-hmm. So that's when there's nothing split. But that hardly ever happens.
It's very rare.
Very rare. That's why she picked you in the first place, because you were a winning bet.
Right. You had a future that she.
That's why she picked her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why would she just get married to a loser? She would get married to somebody that's going somewhere, even if it's a little bit of equity, a house, cars, a little bit of money in the bank, and kids, and child support and alimony. She's still going to get something.
Sure.
So as that grows, she has more leverage to use against you. And she disagrees and she doesn't like a certain thing, she's going to use one of those levers. Oh, yeah. Well, you're not going to see your kids again. Well, I'm going to take half because I'm entitled to half. It's my right. This and that. So she can use any of those levers. And if you don't like and you don't do what she says, she gets a golden parachute. Mm-hmm. So that's why we say it's a rigged game. Because in any things that when you marry, first of all, if you're after sex, that declines. And if she's attractive, she has no incentive to stay attractive because she already has you. A lot of people don't work on themselves to keep you. Once they have you, it's like they got the laser, they're bored. Mm-hmm. So, it just, all those steps just keep adding, and eventually it just adds up to a ring game that these things go against you, man. So that's why I don't recommend it. Don't put yourself in that in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing. That's why it's so rigged. Well, one thing that I do look at it is kind of like a man is the CEO of his life, and he wants somebody to help him, like a star employee. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that you got to look at it is when you want, as a CEO, you want somebody that actually brings in more than they consume. So when you have a partner, you want them to produce more than they take for the whole company. And the whole company is in benefit of you and the other partner that you have, the employee. So you want to live a better quality of life, and you want to improve the business, and you want to improve that. So what happens is they have to give more than they take. It's just like a star employee, right? So in the relationship, it's the same thing. The employee has to believe in your vision, but they also need to be rewarded for their effort. But they also need to grow together. When you have an employee that's incentivized to go against you, because if they get fired, they get a golden parachute, then they're going to act up. And they're going to try to run the company their way. And if they're like, if you don't run it my way, I'm going to go and get a severance package. So that's really what it's happening. Exactly. So why would you want to put yourself to have an employee that can, in the future, use those things against you?
Yeah. Like, exactly. Why would you hire an employee that out loud says, well, if you don't do what I say, well, then it doesn't matter because I get to leave with that pretty severance package, like you said.
Yes. Either you pay for the kids, you're going to pay my lifestyle, or you're going to pay for the lawyer to defend me against you, and you're going to pay for it. It's like, what?
Yeah. Women are blatantly saying, well, If he doesn't like it, he's stuck with me. He'll have to give me half. I'll take the kids. Whatever. Women are blatantly taking pride in these threats, and I think they even say it to their husbands. They use it as a weapon.
Absolutely.
They're like, hey, now it's my way, or
paycheck,
or it's not. Yeah, it's my way,
or
not the highway. It's my way, and give me your money.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, why would you get yourself into the situation? A lot of guys get into situations because they think they're exception. They think that there's not 50% of them are going to be doing that. Believe me, all of them go in there, and half of them are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the half that are with their women, most of them are not even happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why put yourself in that situation?
Exactly, and that's why if you look at the divorce rates too, I think what is it, like 70 to 80% of divorce are initiated by the women.
Exactly.
Because it's in their favor.
The best strategy to do is kind of like, you have to almost be like you're dating all the time. Because if they can't hold you down, if you're not married, you don't have kids, and you don't live together where there's a
like
common law, they really can't hold you down. So they're going to be with you because they want to be, not because they have to be, or they're getting something out of you. Because there's no way to do it. So when you do that, you have to be constantly dating them. So you have to be constantly working on yourselves. Because if you keep working on yourself, you're getting too good to lose. So the woman needs to keep up. If she doesn't keep up, get rid of her and get another one.
And then
because it's easier to replace her. Yeah, it's easy to separate.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to set up in a way where the pieces work with you.
Right.
That's why, I didn't get married. I didn't have kids.
And we live in a no common law state.
We live in a no common law state. So even if there is a common law state, there's ways around it. It's worth it more than to pay the rest of your life having to do something that you did temporarily. And the biggest cost that I think men don't get is opportunity cost. All those years wasted on somebody that was going to take advantage of you. And that's the most thing, because you can't go back in time to find somebody else that was better than them.
Or to redo things.
Yeah,
even.
Exactly.
Because, like you said, that temptation. So women, I don't think necessarily are like that initially. I think they are genuinely good people, kind of.
Yeah, human nature.
But then human nature comes in where it's very like that phrase, they will burn you to keep themselves warm. So when that temptation, that leverage gets so high, the women just think that they know best and they don't care what the truth or reality is. That's gone out the window, and she just wants it her way. And the temptation to leave is just, it's too great. So
the thing is, don't put somebody else's power on your mercy. It's better you have the power and don't abuse it than somebody else have power and hopefully they don't abuse you. And that's what it is. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And don't give her that leverage because they will use it against you.